The object of the game of golf is to get the ball in the hole in as few strokes as possible. And golf becomes a lot more fun when we can do that, when we feel like we're in control of our shots, when we can predict where the ball is going to go. Now, what golfers typically overlook is when we're working on our swing or we're going for a lesson, a lot of times we're trying to fix the problems that happen later in our swing, such as what's happening on the downswing. And don't get me wrong, it's really important to focus on that because how you deliver the club onto the ball at impact determines your ball flight. But the part that most golfers overlook is their setup. And a lot of times, building your stance improperly or not setting up to the ball in a good posture, that's the thing that's actually causing the problems later in the swing. So there's a lot of times that you can fix the downstream problems by addressing how you set up, how you build your stance, and how you stand over the ball. And in this video, we're going to talk about one of the most common swing faults that has to do with posture and setting up to the ball, and that is SPosture. Okay, now SPosture is very common, and what it is, simply put, is an overarching of the lower back. It's a misalignment of the pelvis and the spine, okay? Super important. Your legs are very powerful muscles. They produce a lot of power. They steal that energy from the ground. But if the pelvis is not aligned, if the core is not braced, then all that power that you go to produce, instead of going into the golf club and into your ball, it's going to go elsewhere. And that could be into your lower back, could be into your knees or into your shoulders. It's going to cause problems and instability later on in the downswing. So what we're talking about today with SPosture is this misaligned pelvis. And what causes this is essentially two things. And understanding why this happens is really important because they work together. And the first one is hip mobility. We have two very big, very powerful joints in our hips, where the femur, the long bone in our upper leg, where it meets the pelvis, is this big ball and socket joint. And for many of us, typically due to sedentary lifestyle choices or a lot of sitting, these hips get very stiff and they don't move the way that they're supposed to. Okay, now when our mobile hips can't move the way that they're supposed to, it causes other parts of our body, such as our lower back, to take over and do some of the work that the hips are failing to do. And this leads to our second problem because we want the hips to move. We want that hip mobility, but at the same time, we need to retain core stability. So one of the biggest things that we need to understand is how can we get the hips to move while preventing the core from moving? And that's what our core is designed to do. All these muscles around your core in that kind of mid-torso belly button range, their whole job is to brace and to prevent movement. We don't want a lot of movement, right? That movement should come from below our hips or above, like our chest and our shoulders. And so what we want to do to fix our setup from the get-go is to improve the mobility of our hips while retaining the stability through our core. And so we're going to take a two systems approach here, and we're going to start by getting some mobility through the hips. And this is going to work in kind of three phases. And the first one is glute activation. And what we're talking about with glute activation is getting the muscles around your hips, particularly your backside, your butt. We need to get them to fire up. We need them to contract and to squeeze, and for them to do the work instead of the other muscles of our body. Now, chances are good if this is your first time ever doing mobility or working on SPosture, your glutes are probably weak. And that could be true even if you go to the gym on the regular, because it is possible to train dysfunctional patterns. What I mean by that is you could have a bad looking deadlift or a bad squat, but still get the job done and still build the strength so that you're adding weight and strength over time, but it's not functional strength. And so we have to go back to the root. what do we really need to have happen here? We need to have the glutes fire. That's the main stability center that connects the upper and the lower body. Super important. Now, once they're active, we can go to the second phase of hip mobility, which is hip extension. Okay, and hip extension is opening the hips. Okay, it's the opposite of hip flexion. And hip flexion is actually going to be our third phase here. Now, most of us live in a world where our hips are almost always in flexion. It's called sitting. Okay, so when your knee comes up towards your chest, that flexes the hip. And the other way, when the knee goes away from the chest, it extends the hip. And we need to be able to do both of those and control our movement through each of them. Now, a super simple test that we can do before and after to make sure that we're seeing the right change is to first get into our golf setup, pretend like you're standing over a ball, fold your arms across your chest, and then what we're going to try to do is rock your pelvis back and forth and see if, one, you can do this at all, and two, if you can do it, is it smooth or is there a shake? Okay? This is a simple way to show us if we have mobility through the hip joint, but also stability through the core, being able to use those muscles of the core. So when we're going through these exercises, we're going to test, okay, how much can I do? What does it feel like? We go through our prescribed exercises to fix our SPosture, and then we see if we can improve that, okay? And we're going to do that by getting our glutes active, get our hips into extension, and then get our hips into flexion. But that's only half of the scenario here, because that's only hip mobility. We still need to stabilize the core. Otherwise, when we swing, just because we have more mobility in the hips doesn't mean our core is guaranteed to stay stable. We may still have a lot of instability in movement, so we need to get those to turn on. And we're going to do that by starting off with a cat-cow, which is a great exercise. It's been practiced in yoga for a very long time, but it's a great exercise for getting the muscles of the core to fire up, to get them to arch and round, go back and forth, for getting the pelvis to rock, the glutes, the core. It all works together to accomplish what we're talking about with SPosture. So we're going to start off by waking up those core muscles by doing a cat-cow. Once we do a few cat-cows, we're going to go into a bird dog. And a bird dog is a great exercise for getting the core muscles to stabilize, right? Cat-cow, it's getting them to move. Bird dog stabilizes the core. But what's cool about the bird dog is while that core is stabilized, we're going to mobilize the hips and the shoulders. Okay, so this is a really great way to teach your body what we call core stability, peripheral mobility. We want the core to be still. We want the limbs to be the things that are moving. And for many of us, because our body doesn't work that way, when we ask our limbs to move, our core goes along for the ride because they can't work independently of each other. And that's what we're trying to fix here. Now we're going to finish this off by doing what's called a bear plank. Okay, and a bear plank is a great exercise for getting your core and some of your legs and butt to really activate and become stronger, so they're more able to hold that stable position that we're looking for in order to fix this SPosture swing fault. One of the most important things any golfer can learn how to do is learn how to activate your glutes. These are super powerful muscles, and they're responsible for generating big swings and for protecting your lower back. But we need to get them turned on. So we're going to lay down on the floor on our back, and you're going to put your hands under your butt cheeks. You can go palms up, palms down, either is fine. And we're just going to spend some time getting our butt to squeeze and our hands underneath there so that we can feel that sensation and get some feedback. If you want to close your eyes, that can help. But what we're going to do is squeeze both your butt cheeks as hard as you can. 3, 2, 1, and then turn them off. And then squeeze just your right cheek as hard as you can. 3, 2, 1, and turn it off. Then your left cheek. 3, 2, 1, turn it off. Now we're going to turn them both back on, and we're going to see if we can turn just the right one off. Either you can or you can't. Turn it back on, and try to turn your left one off, and then back on. And this will be one cycle, and you can go through this as many times as you need to until your butt is contracting nice and strong. One of the best ways to unlock power is to unlock your hips. And one of the best ways to unlock your hips is to do a Samson lunge hold. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to get into a split stance. I'm going to start with my right foot forward. There is some space between my feet. They don't have to be in line with each other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take my hips and square them up so that my belt buckle is pointed where I want it to go. I'm going to try to get my feet pointed at 12 o'clock. Again, they don't need to be in line with each other, but I want them both pointed toward 12 o'clock. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to lower our chest a little bit, and we're going to try to tuck our tailbone, okay? And we're going to try to get it to lock in place by squeezing your butt. Once that's locked in, then we're going to start to open our chest and try to push this hip forward. And the goal of this stretch is to push this hip forward. Now, this alone is a great position to hang out in. We're feeling some tension in the front of your left hip. Butt is contracted, feeling strong. And if you're feeling really good, you can go up onto your toes, get your heels off the ground, and then really try to push your toes away from each other and really focus on opening this spot of the hip up, squeezing your butt, and staying tall with your posture. Hang out here for 1, 2, 3 minutes and then switch it up and do the other side. One of the most important parts of any golf swing is being able to bend at the waist and build your stance. And to help you do this, we're going to do an exercise that's going to need something like a towel or a pillow. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it between your knees so that we can help you touch your toes a little bit better. So I take my towel, I roll it up, it's going to go directly between my knees, and I'm going to put my feet as close together as they can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up tall, and then as I bend down, I'm going to keep my legs straight. I'm going to bend at the waist. I'm going to go as far as I can. And then when you can't go any farther, you're going to squeeze the towel as hard as you can. You're going to find, whoa, I can go a lot farther than I could before. And we're going to hang out here. We're going to take a deep breath. And then as we exhale, we're going to try to bend at the knees a little bit and touch all the way down to the floor. And that's 1 rep. And I want you to do this as many times as you need to until you can see some change, that you can reach a little bit lower each time without the towel between your legs. And the goal is every morning you should be able to wake up and touch your toes, and before you go to bed you should still be able to touch your toes. Okay, so this is a great way for you to go ahead and get that change to happen if you can. Creating a powerful golf swing while protecting your back means that you need to be able to bend and twist. And a great exercise to help you do that is a cat-cow. So let's get on to our hands and knees with our hands underneath our shoulders and our knees underneath our hips. We're going to arch our back as we look up and inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to tuck our chin, round our back, tuck our hips, and look down. And we're going to go back and forth, timing this movement with our breathing until we can notice some significant difference in the way that we can bend and twist, as well as our posture when we're standing up or standing over the ball. If you want to have a powerful golf swing, you need to be able to move your arms and your legs independently from your core. And the bird dog is a great exercise to teach you how to do that. We're going to get onto our hands and knees with our hands underneath our shoulders and our knees underneath our hips. We're going to try to find a flat position for our back. We don't want to be arched, we don't want to be rounded, we want to be somewhere right in between. Then what we're going to do is we're going to extend our right hand and our left foot away from our body as far as we can. Hold it, 3, 2, 1, and then slowly bring them back in and switch sides with the goal of reaching as far as we can out while not allowing our core to move around. And this is a great way to teach your body how to move independently, okay? Arms and legs independently from your core, and that's going to be key for creating a powerful golf swing. Everybody knows you need a strong core to play great golf. And one of the ways to develop a strong core is by doing a bear plank. And what we're going to do for a bear plank is get onto our hands and knees with our hands underneath our shoulders and our knees underneath our hips. And we're going to take our feet and we're going to bend them so we can tuck our toes underneath. Because what we're going to do from here is we're going to get our knees off the ground and we're just going to hover in this position. And this is a bear plank. This is a great way to start developing core strength as well as strength in your butt and in your legs, which is going to be key for having a powerful golf swing. If you found any of this information helpful, please go to tourshotgolf.com to check out and learn more. And then check me out on the social medias at Facebook. Come into my free Facebook group, the Mobilitas Movers, or check me out on Instagram or YouTube, both at TourShotGolf. Move better, play better.